With the recent release of Sonic Racing Crossworlds, there are now 4 main Sonic racing games, those being Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, Team Sonic Racing, and obviously Sonic Racing Crossworlds. And no, before anybody says a single word, I'm not counting Sonic Drift and Drift 2 or Sonic Racing on Apple Arcade because nobody cares about those games. So yeah, you know why we're here. We are here today to rank every single level from all 4 of these aforementioned racing titles. And with over 100 levels to get through in this video, I say we don't waste any more time, and without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let us rank every single Sonic Racing level. Now, for the first time in one of these tier list videos, we won't actually be starting in the E tier, but rather the C tier. Reason for that being, none of the levels in these 4 games were bad enough to be in the E or D tier, so well done Sonic Racing Crossworlds and all the other 3 games for not being that bad. But that being said, at the bottom of the C tier, the worst level from these 4 games, we have Sky Road from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. And yeah, unfortunately, there's just a lot of problems with this specific level. I mean, it starts off with a flying section, and honestly, in this game, the flying sections aren't really that interesting because all the interesting mechanics from Transformed just aren't here. But to be fair to this game, the fact that you can actually drift up and down is actually really nice, so I do like that addition in this game. And then when you're on the road in this level, the areas that look like they might be shortcuts, in actuality aren't shortcuts at all because they're actually slower, even though they require more risk to actually get to and actually maintain. And what is even the point of them being there then? And then after the first 2 turns, it's just a straight line to the finish, and yeah, it's just a really boring track to play, honestly, and it's mostly just because of its layout, because it looks nice. It's a big upgrade from TSR, I think, but just playing the level just isn't interesting in the slightest. Again, a shame. And speaking of Sky Road, next up we have Sky Road from Team Sonic Racing, the original. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, when I first started making this tier list video, I thought this was gonna be the worst track like on the entire list, like not even a C, like a D tier or something, but as I came around to replaying it, it wasn't actually as bad as I remember, because Sky Road just embodies everything wrong with TSR's track design. The tracks are far too wide, leaving no room to even fall off or anything. Then there's too many straight lines here, leading to the track design feeling kind of boring to just play. And then TSR in general, this is a really slow game for some reason. I remember it being way faster than when it came to the replay, and I was so confused sitting here like, man, when did this game get so slow? I thought it was way faster, but no, the game really just is this slow. And honestly, I think the speed can hurt a lot of these tracks sometimes, because sometimes you feel like, okay, the track is actually kind of decent, but because we're moving at such a slow pace, it kind of hurts the experience overall, and maybe if we were moving at a faster speed, the track would actually just be better and higher on this list, but yeah, that's just TSR for you. Now, the reason this is actually higher than the Racing Crossworlds version is I think there's actually a lot more interesting things going on here in terms of the turns or whatever, shortcuts actually being shortcuts, and just the fact that you start on the ground and then you fly to the sky, then back down to the ground again. I think it's just like a nice, what's the word, like story of a level or something like that, which Crossworlds unfortunately lacks. Anyways, next up we have Magma Planet from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Another level which I thought was going to be a lot lower on the list, but honestly, it's not that bad at higher speeds. Let's not get it twisted, the flying sections still do suck, but there's a lot of obstacles for you to avoid here, so that actually makes it a bit more interesting. But once again, you think that this shortcut right here, where you have to make a tight turn to get into the flying section early, would be faster, but from my, again, experimentation, it doesn't feel any faster. Maybe a tiny bit slower. And again, if it's not that much faster and even slower, what's the point of it even being there? I really do think this game was a big problem with risk and reward, because it's like in the trick system, for example, you can't fail tricks anymore, so like, where's the risk and reward here? In both Transformed and Team Sonic Racing, the trick system was a skill-based mechanic, but it's no longer like that in Racing Crossworlds, and then when it comes to the shortcuts, I mean, shortcuts in quotation marks actually, a lot of them have such high risk for you to go for them, but then end up not even being any faster, and sometimes again, slower. So again, what is the point of them being there? Anyways, next up we have Pinball Highway from Team Sonic Racing. Now this track has actually been reused, and actually not even reused, ripped from a previous game, that being the first All-Stars Racing game, and because of how slow Team Sonic Racing is compared to those other 2 racing games, it just leads to this being a whole lot worse of an experience than the original. There's a lot of open stretch of road here, and While I don't mind it too much in the original because again of the speed, in TSR it feels like such a slog to get through. And yeah, because of that I've got not much to say about it other than it just feels boring because of the speed. Anyways, next up we have Dream Valley from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. And the reason this level is so low on the list is because despite it looking cool, 90% of this level is just flying, and even though I like the flying sections in this game, I feel like Dream Valley kind of flopped on them a lot. Because most of it is just kind of flying in a straight line for the most part with barely any obstacles. They spice it up sometimes, but I'm just not here to play the entirety of a track of flying. There's one fun boat section which can be a bit glitchy, I'm not gonna lie, but that's just this game in general. But it's so short-lived and it's like, okay, but I want more of that rather than just flying the entire time. I mean, I guess Knights and he's supposed to be flying because that's what Knights does, but he could have done something else with that, come on man. It's an even bigger shame for this level in particular because there's so many cool things to look at in this level. You keep teleporting to different areas or whatever, like, it's a cool looking track, but it just doesn't play all too great. And the same goes for the next level, which is Egg Hangar from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Now just a side note, this is a reused track from the first game, but unfortunately I could actually get to play the first game's Egg Hangar because I don't own a PS3 or 360 that works, so unfortunately I could actually play the DLC, so that level won't be on the list. But it's not really the end of the world because this track right here is literally the exact same as the original, so you got one version here at least. And yeah, now to talk about this actual track, it's aight. That's all I can really say about it. There's a lot of open stretches of pretty much nothing, a lot of way too wide turns that are not very tight, so it's not that interesting to kind of turn on it, and yeah, it's just more cool looking visuals and stuff. I feel like having returning tracks in this game in particular could have been a cool idea because of the new transformed gimmick, but they don't really do anything with the returning tracks in this game. They're all just straight up rips of the original with nothing added to them, which is a bit of a shame, man. A bit of a shame. And speaking of DLC tracks, next up we have Outrun Bay from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, the DLC level for this game. And I mean, visually it's cool. It's a very nice looking level. Nice little remake of Outrun, the original car racing game back in the day. But well, it's not really a car race, it's a racing game in general, but you get the point. But yeah, unfortunately in terms of track design, it's not great. It's not great. Once again, a lot of stretches of just nothing. Then you have a decent boat section halfway through, but I feel like it's honestly way too open where there's not really like a set place to go. And while that might sound interesting to have like a massive open area to drive through, it's not that cool because they don't put anything in this area except for boats, and that's really it. So I guess I am glad they had like one of the most mid tracks in the game be DLC because yeah, I'd rather have this out of the game than in, to be honest. Now, next up, this is going to hurt me inside, but it's Sand Road from Team Sonic Racing. The stage that gave birth to my intro and outro theme is now near the bottom of the list. And again, it's got the problems of the TSR's track design. Why is the track so wide? And then why there's so many straight lines of just kind of nothing? And then once again, the speed of TSR ruins this track again. Because I could maybe live with all the wideness and all the straight lines and lack of kind of tight turns here if for the fact the game was faster, because there are a lot of decent elements in this track. You've got shortcuts that actually mean something, some decent tight turns near the end, you got a hilly section where you can actually get advantage of some tricks in there. Like, it's all kind of okay stuff, but the simple fact that it's just so slow to get through because of TSR's speed really does just hurt it. I really do wonder what would happen if you put like TSR's tracks in like Transformed or even Racing Cross Worlds. Would it be better in there? I do wonder. Maybe it's possible for somebody to actually port these levels into other games. I have no idea. But now we have Whale Lagoon from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, the original. And yeah, the reason this is so low is because, I mean, it's just a basic layout really. I mean, it is a tutorial stage, the first one in the game, so I guess it makes sense, but I feel like they could have done a bit better with the layout here. Yeah, it's just tight. Same goes for the next level, which is Icicle Valley from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Again, cool shortcuts here and there, but yeah, it's just not that interesting, to be honest. It's just aight. And once again, same for the next level, which is Roulette Road from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. It's just a boring layout. A lot of straight lines, very wide turns, splitting pathways that are just exactly the same experience, so like, what's the point of them being there? It's just okay. And the same goes for the next level, which is Roulette Road from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Same level, but I feel like the physics in this game make it feel a bit better because it's a bit faster. And then next up, we have Roulette Road from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. And despite this having an original layout, I feel like the new layout isn't that interesting even still. None of the turns here are really that interesting to make. And then it also doesn't help that this is actually a really short crossworld too, so it's just okay. Right, next up we have Whale Lagoon from Team Sonic Racing. Again, just a rip from the original, but they actually had in one small pathway near the end, which I guess is something, but at the end of the day, it's just Whale Lagoon again. I feel like the TSR team mechanics kind of make this a bit of a better experience because it can be a bit faster here and there, but yeah, it's just alright. Next up we have Ocean Ruin from Sega All-Stars Racing. And this level is a real shame because it actually looks really cool, but unfortunately the level just doesn't stack up in terms of its layout. There's a lot of just boring turns here and there, a lot of straight lines, and then pretty much the only decent part of this level is near the end where you got these boardwalks or whatever you call them, and it's kind of a bit trivial because you can just skip it all with one jump. That isn't even that difficult to make either, so like, it's just okay. And despite me liking this one a bit more than Whale Lagoon, I can kind of see why they don't reuse this track at all and go for the other two and then on top of that Ocean View in TSR because, yeah, the layout just isn't that interesting. It's definitely the coolest looking seaside hill level from all these games, so that's for sure. Anyways, next up we have Galactic Parade from Sonic & All-Stars Racing Transformed. Yeah, this level is just a lot of straight lines with some boring turns kind of here and there, and then just a lot of decent flying sections, and yeah, for that reason it's just gonna sit near the top of the C tier because, again, it's just straight lines and yeah, it's kind of boring. Next up we have Holoska from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Again, this one is just okay. The water sections, again, a bit trivial because you think the flying sections might be faster, but it's not really any faster than the water sections really. And even then the boat and the flying sections are just straight lines with no obstacles whatsoever, so it's just kind of boring. And then when you're on the ground, it's actually alright, there's some decent obstacles, but it's just too short-lived really, so it's gonna unfortunately sit near the top of the C tier. Next up we have Mother's Canyon from Team Sonic Racing, and this once again has the problem of 1, being too wide on the track, and 2, being too gosh darn slow. This track had a lot of potential as well because of the last section with all the going on their ceilings or whatever, and then even the Mother Wisp section, you got some okay turns over there, and then you got some obstacles in the first part again, but again, it's just too slow. This game could have been so much better if it was just a lot faster. That's literally it. But now, for the top of the C tier, we have Radical Highway from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of biased towards this level because I'm just so sick of Radical Highway in every single Sonic game nowadays and spin-off. Like, I'm just so sick of it, and yeah, that's part of the reason why it's here, honestly. But then in terms of the layout, I feel like it's, again, a bit dry. The most interesting part here is definitely the bridge section, and annoyingly, going on the sides of the bridge while being, again, risky just isn't that fast. Again, like, what is this game's problem with having such high risk shortcuts that just don't result in anything faster? It's just stupid, man. But yeah, apart from the bridge, there's not really any tight turns anywhere here, so it's not that interesting to drive on. And then you got 2 loops here. While cool as an idea to go on a loop, Radical Highway, I mean, we've done it in racing games before, and then it's just not that interesting, honestly. It's just rings and dashpads there. Big wow. But anyways, it's now time for the bottom of the B tier. We have Wisp Circuit from Team Sonic Racing. Now, this is one of the few tracks in this game where I feel like the speed isn't actually a huge issue, it's just the track design itself. And I mean, for the first track in the game, it's not horribly designed, it's just, again, nothing special. But simply because of the fact that it does actually feel slow on playing it because the speed is actually alright here, it got the low B tier, so well done Team Sonic Racing, well done. And next up we have Metal Harbor from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest fan of this track in the game, honestly. I mean, for starters, it just looks ugly. None of the textures here have any depth here, and it just makes it all look very flat, and then the colouring here is also very washed out compared to SA2. And then in terms of the track design, I mean, it's alright. It's nothing special again, it's just decent. The best part of the track definitely has to be the second to last turn, because there's actually a lower path that's actually technically faster if you can actually manage to land on it, so that's pretty cool right there. But unfortunately, the only other cool part about the level is the fact that in lap 3, the rocket actually blasts off, kind of changing the track a bit, but this change in the track does actually do a whole lot because you just sat there spamming tricks now instead of actually being on the road driving. And I guess it can be good for a bit of adrenaline for all those tricks that you can pull off, but apart from that, there's not much here, to be honest. Next up we have Urban Canyon from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and apparently this is actually a favourite track in this game from what I've been seeing people say, but me personally, I don't feel like it's all that, honestly. There's some nice turns here and there on supersonic speed, some which are actually pretty tight, and there's some decent grass shortcuts you can take with the boost wisp or something, but I don't know what it is about this track. I feel like it's a well-designed track, but I don't feel anything when I play on it. I don't know why. It's just really weird. I do like how you can actually drive off the track in lap 3 to actually drive on the canyon parts of the urban canyon. I think that's actually pretty cool. But I don't know. Something about this level doesn't sell it for me. Maybe it's the speed, which I don't even think that's an issue, honestly. Yeah, it's not the speed. I don't know. I just don't know what it is. And next up, we have Chow Park from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. This looks kind of cool and sounds okay, but the track design isn't all too interesting, honestly. It gets a bit spicy when it becomes a dynamic track in lap 3 when you get like a whole part of the track taken over by water. That's pretty good. But again, I feel like there's just not too much interesting going on here. There's not even like a proper shortcut that can actually take you or anything. It's a very linear track, which isn't usually bad, but when you got a linear track, the actual design of the track has to be pretty good to accommodate for that. But unfortunately, Chow Park just doesn't add up for me. And now we have Kraken Bay from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, a track which is mostly focused on water, kind of. And unfortunately, the water sections don't really have much going for them. I like how they have some waves at the beginning of it, and then honestly, that's really about it. I find interesting to the water segments in this level. I like how on the land parts you have all the ghosts throwing barrels at you, or even the Kraken trying to stop you in your path, but it's aight. It's gonna sound like I'm just hating on the game right now, and trust me, there are some bangers in this game, but we haven't got to them yet, so just give it time, man. Just give it time. Trust me, there's some good stuff in here. But yeah, that being said, next up we have Hidden World from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. A completely unexpected track choice for this game, honestly. Hidden World from Lost World, really? But honestly, I'm kind of here for it. It especially works very well as a cross world because like it's just such a random place in the Sonic universe. Like, yeah, that deserves to be a cross world, honestly. Go for it. I really do like how they incorporate every single act of Hidden World in some way, shape, or form here. You got the flying segments of the tornado level, then you got even the Rubik's Cube part, then you got the hairy Pac-Man, and then you got even the Zone 3 with all the square platforms. Like, they do a lot here. It's a very good representation of Hidden Worlds, but unfortunately, once again, there's just a lot of flying here, and as we've established, flying really isn't that interesting when the only thing you can do is just drift, and that's it. Now, next up, we have White Cave from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Sadly, the only Riders level in this game, which is a shame because, like, we have 4 Sonic Unleashed levels, but only 1 Riders track. Really? Or whatever, I suppose. But yeah, White Cave is decent. It's decent. It's got very nice visuals. I think it's got some decent music as well. I like the remix here. But I do feel like the track design can be a bit straight-liney here, though. It's not a boring straight line, definitely. Now, they've got a lot of obstacles here and a lot of places to fall off, which is actually pretty good. But I don't know, I feel like it's kind of underwhelming a bit. There's not like any twists or turns here to really give it that spice that it needs. I mean, the tube section's there, and I don't think it really helps. I feel like that's probably the weakest part of the entire cross world, honestly. And this might be a skill issue on my part, but I feel like every single time I leave that stupid tube section, I always somehow fall off the track. It just somehow just happens. And then next up, we have Galactic Parade from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Pretty much a more condensed version of the original, where it's not as long, but it still has the same problems of just not being that interesting, honestly. And next up, weirdly, we have Roulette Road from Team Sonic Racing. Because this is a straight up rip of the original level, you'd think it'd be either on the same level or even worse than the OG, but here's the thing, I for some reason enjoy playing it a lot more in Team Sonic Racing. I don't know what they did to this level in Team Sonic Racing because it's just more fun. I don't know what it is. They didn't change anything with the level design or anything like that. No, it's the exact same thing, but for some reason plays and feels a whole lot better in TSR. I have no idea why, but that's a dub for Team Sonic Racing, I suppose. Boom, Roulette Road is the best one in this game. Wow. But then naturally, next up we have Lost Palace from Team Sonic Racing, a rip of the OG game, and it's inferior. And the reason this one is inferior is because of the speed, once again dragging it down. It just feels so slow compared to the original. Why? Next up we have Sanctuary Falls from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Kind of similar problems as Dream Valley, where there's just too much flying, but to a lot less of an extent here, because I feel like the flying section is actually a lot more interesting here, and then you got a lot of driving on the road section, which is actually pretty decent. I don't mind it. But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of flying here, and flying is the worst transformation out of the 3. Which is why next up we have Rogue's Landing from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Again, a lot of flying segments here that are just okay at best, but with some pretty good good, honestly, boat and driving on the road sections. Unfortunately, once again, that is bogged down by too much flying. I will say though, the sunset in this level looks very, very nice. Just the sun rays coming through the entire time is just beautiful to look at. But now next up we have Golden Temple from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. One of the best tracks in this game in terms of visuals and music, but unfortunately in terms of track design it's just aight. You got a decent split of pathways at the beginning segment of the track, but then once it gets more linear, I feel like you kind of lose the interesting parts of the layout because it pretty much is a couple turns with some interesting things to dodge with the bowling ball thingies or whatever you call them, and then when you get to the water, it's just one big square and not that interesting. I feel like if the balls from earlier carried on into the water segment, it could have been a whole lot more interesting of a crossworld, honestly, but because of the fact that there's nothing to actually avoid here on the water segment, it kinda bogs down the whole crossworld, unfortunately. Next up we have Market Street from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and this is actually inferior to the original in TSR in my opinion. Now in terms of visuals, I won't lie, when I first saw this track I was thinking it was kind of flipping ugly because, I mean, just look at it, it's a bit too dark, but when I go back to the TSR version, honestly, I think it's way too bright here, and actually can kind of appreciate the normal looking environment here. Still not as good as the one in Sonic Generations, but yeah, it looks aight. You know what, it looks aight, but yeah, musically it's definitely inferior to the TSR version in my opinion. And then in terms of track design, it's basically once again a more condensed version of Market Street, and I feel like they condensed it a bit too much here. They kind of get rid of a bit of the sauce that Market Street had originally, like bouncing on the balloons, it's not here anymore. Then driving on the side of the wall, again, is not here anymore. Like, they kind of get rid of most of the interesting parts of it. I will say though, they do improve the opening of the level. I actually do think the opening is a lot stronger here because it's got the grass actually making it harder to stay on the top pathway, but apart from that, yeah, TSR kind of clears, honestly. Next up, we have Rainbow Garden from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Another level bogged down by the lame flying segments, honestly, because in terms of the on-road section, there's actually a lot of skipping to do here with the boost wisps that you can actually get. Not the most interesting design-wise apart from the off-road section with the boost wisp, but it's decent for one of the first tracks in the game. I will say though, I really do like the music here. It's actually grown on me quite a lot since the first time we played it back in February. It's actually got some very nice music here. In fact, it's one of the few tracks in the game where I feel like the lap 3 version is actually good with the vocals in there, because usually they sound kinda crappy and kind of ruin the song, but not in this case though, definitely not in this case. Right, next up we have Dark Arsenal from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, and this is just a really alright track. It does nothing crazy, nothing offensively bad here or boring, it's just alright honestly. And surprisingly next up we have Dark Arsenal from Team Sonic Racing. I feel like the team mechanics can make it a lot better here than in the OG because you can get a bit more speed with it, but again, still nothing too crazy here. I also feel like they made the shortcut here actually being able to be taken now, because I've never actually taken this shortcut before in the OG game. I always seem to miss it somehow. Anyways, next up we have Deadly Route from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Not gonna lie, the placement of this track is actually very unfortunate because it has a very strong opening and ending. There's a lot of tight turns in the beginning and a lot of cool shortcuts to take, but it's just that middle section that really bogs it down because there's one very, very long turn up a tower where it just goes around in circles over and over again, and it's just one long and kind of boring turn, honestly. Nothing really interesting about it. And it kind of ruins the whole flow of the entire track. If this lasted maybe only 1 or 2 loops around, then maybe it would have been an A tier, but yeah, unfortunately it lasts way too long and yes, leads to it being a bit dry. Right, next up we have Doctor's Mind from Team Sonic Racing. Another track bogged down by partly speed, but then a bit more of track design. It's all good and dandy until it gets to this part right here where you're kind of driving in a straight line with 2 ramps, and that's really about it. It's just not the most interesting thing in the world. A shame too, because up until this point it was actually, you know what, not bad. Not bad at all. There's a nice splitting pathway which actually has a brand new experience on both pathways, so that's pretty cool, but yeah, kinda once again gets bogged down by that last segment. Coming up next we have Shibuya Downtown from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. One of the reused tracks from the original, and I feel like the OG just plays a bit better. The physics in this game make this track feel a bit less fun than the original because of the ramps mostly, but I think I will give this credit for actually making the cars feel like a bit more of an obstacle, honestly. Next up we have Bingo Party from Team Sonic Racing. Another reused track which is a fair bit worse than the original because they kind of take all the heart and soul out of the final section of the track, where in the original there was all cards and everything to ramp off in this final segment here, but now it's just, what even is this? There's nothing here. It's just 2 things you drive around and that's it. big wow. It just reminds me of how bad cyberspace was in Sonic Frontiers, where they take existing levels and then strip away all the source and all the cool factor about it, just chuck it into the game and think, yeah, that'll be good, won't it? And the answer was no. No, it's not. Anyways, next up we have Shibuya Downtown from the original Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. And here now we can actually talk about this level because it's the original one now, and you know, it's aight. That's all I gotta say, to be honest. It's just aight. You got some decent jumps to make where you can actually charge up a level 3 boost, which is fun. You got some nice drifting to make with the turns. You got some cars to avoid. This is an overall decent track. Not much more to say about it, really. Same goes for the next track, which is Outer Forest from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Unlike a Deadly Route, this track is consistently just alright. You got some decent turns here and there, a little shortcut that I can take, which gets you on the higher pathway, and you got some zombies to dodge, and that's cool, but again, it's just alright, there's nothing special really. Next up we have Turbine Loop from Team Sonic Racing. Yet again, another reused track which is inferior in this game. Who could have guessed? And who could have also guessed that the reason it's inferior is because of the speed. Wow, why is Team Sonic Racing so slow? And next up we have Water Palace from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Despite there not being many shortcuts here like at all and only being one opportunity to skip over grass with a boost wisp, the track design here isn't actually half bad. The water segment isn't anything crazy, but the actual on-road stuff once again, pretty good. You got some decent turns to make here. It's actually pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Coming up next is the North Star Islands from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. That is right, the islands, we're going to the islands. But yeah, not gonna lie, the concept of this level is actually very cool. Going through different parts of the levels in Sonic Superstars in one track is actually a great idea, but I feel like the execution is a bit lazy. The problem is they don't do anything with some of the new environments that they actually bring in. In Bridge Island, we have the cool thing where you go along the wall like you do in the actual game, and then you got the crab meat here, that's pretty decent. But then you go to Speed Jungle, and what gimmick is there here? Nothing. Then you go to Sky Temple, and what's the gimmick here? Well, technically on the third lap there's a secret shortcut here behind these coloured cube things, whatever you call them. But apart from that, there's no gimmick here, really. But then you go to Press Factory, and actually I'll give them credit here. They use the bouncing press gimmick from the original level, that's pretty good right there. But then finally, you go to Sand Sanctuary, and then what's the gimmick here? You guessed it, nothing. It's just there. I really feel like if this track actually got properly fleshed out with all the gimmicks actually being in the locations that actually appear here, this could have been one of the best tracks in the game, easily. Because as it stands right now, the track feels kind of boring and empty, and honestly kind of soulless. Because of the simple fact that they took all these areas here, but do nothing with them for the most part. It doesn't help that these textures here are so blurry, like look at this. $70 game, by the way. They just didn't even try with this one. Because honestly, even the level layout here, apart from the gimmicks, isn't that interesting in my opinion either. It's just an okay level. Anyways, next up we have Ocean View from Team Sonic Racing. Once again, another reused level that is a downgrade in Team Sonic Racing. I mean, of course there's no transformer gimmick here, so you can't go underwater in the third lap, and that is actually a big part of the original level, as we can see later on. And then obviously, it's just too slow, man. Transform to TSR, the speed difference is shocking. Next up we have Dinosaur Jungle from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. The middle section of this track is what really carries this entire thing, because the water segment is alright. I think the last section is kind of decent, but that middle section with all the T-Rexes or whatever, that is some pretty good stuff right there. Using the main gimmick of Dinosaur Jungle, that being the dinosaurs, and making them part of the track is what more things in this game should have done. For example, North Star Islands. Sadly, that T-Rex section is a bit short, so it kind of doesn't carry the entire thing too far, but it's still a really good section. Anyways, next up we have Digital Circuit from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Before we say anything about it, why is it that the Sonic Racing game has a Shadow the Hedgehog level, but the Shadow the Hedgehog video game, that being Generations, doesn't have a Shadow the Hedgehog level? That aside though, Digital Circuit is alright. This is one of the levels in this game where I feel like there's a lot of pathways here that don't really do anything. They have different collectibles on it, because on one side you'll have like dash pads to go faster, then the other you'll have some rings, but in terms of the actual gameplay experience in each section of the track, it's not too engaging really. You've got a decent flying segment here where you gotta avoid some of the lasers from Digital Circuit, but apart from that, the road sections are just alright, some kind of tight turns here and there, which is nice, but again, nothing too crazy. I feel like they could have put in more of the gimmicks from Digital Circuit into this track, because apart from like the lasers maybe, what other gimmick is even in this track from Digital Circuit? Exactly, nothing. You don't even get any of the sound effects from Digital Circuit from Shadow of 5, and honestly that's a big loss because those sound effects in that level are actually really good. They single-handedly bring up the atmosphere of those levels so much higher in the original 05, but they're not here in Racing Cross Worlds. Next up we have Ocean View from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. And despite the exact same name as Transform, this actually has an original layout thankfully, just like Roulette Road in this game, but the new layout is, again, it's okay. This once again feels like a more condensed version of Ocean View from Transformed, and again like Market Street, they condense it too much in my opinion. Honestly, everything on land here is actually pretty good actually, I do very much like it. That shortcut over here too, that's a very good shortcut to take there. It doesn't save too much time, but it's still a high skill ceiling nevertheless. Within the water section is just kind of there, just like a lot of water segments in this game honestly. Transformed had a whole lap dedicated to just going on water, and it was actually truly beautiful to go on because the level design there was so open as well, that actually meant something, but here it's just there. This level just feels like kind of a checklist from the original Ocean View because like, oh you've got to have a loop, you've got to have a water section, so just make sure you put that somewhere in the track and it'll be alright, but yeah, I feel like they kind of did do it properly as it should have been done honestly. This track probably could have been helped by having like exactly like Transformed where you have one lap on land, then the second lap on water, so they could probably flesh out a lot more, but oh well, that's not what they did here, and for that reason, yeah, it's only going to be at the B tier. Anyways, next up we have Lava Lair from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Similar to Deadly Route from this game, the middle section again kind of bogs it down, because again it has a strong opening, pretty good ending, but then that middle section where you're going around in a circle pretty much and just avoiding some rocks here and there is just not that engaging as the rest of the level. Again, kind of bogging it down. But it at least gets points over Deadly Route with that middle section because at the very least here, you actually have something to avoid on that long turn. Anyways, next up we have Bingo Party from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. The original Bingo Party, and this time the final section actually has some sauce to it, because you can actually use some playing cards just used as a ramp, and it's pretty cool, man, honestly. And then yeah, because it's in the original game and not TSR, it actually feels a bit speedy, so that it just improves the experience overall. Not bad. And now next up we have Jump Parade from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. And yeah, this level's actually pretty good. You got some nice turns in here, and unfortunately, I think it is brought down a bit by too many straightaways. I like the first one where you gotta jump through large gaps between buildings or whatever, but then they do it again where they have a straightaway, but it's no gaps between buildings anymore, and it kind of loses its charm a bit, kind of again bringing down the level. And just overall in this level, there's not really too many tight turns here. They're just there, and yeah, it's aight. Right, now we have Turbine Loop from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, the original. And yeah, similar to Jump Parade actually, you got some straightaways with a couple of jumps, that's cool, and then you got some turns which aren't actually that tight, so overall, it's an okay experience of a level, and because it's not TSR, yeah, it's actually a bit faster. Anyways, next up we have Sunshine Tour from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Another reused level from the original, and I feel like it's a bit better in the, the OG, because I don't even know, to be honest. I don't even know why. I feel like the vibes... Actually, you know what? Never mind. I do know why. It's because of the music. In the original level from the OG game, they have a copyrighted song there, and it's an absolute banger, but unfortunately, because again, it's copyrighted, they took it out for the rehash in Transformed, and that is why. Next up, we have Sunshine Tour from the original Sega All-Stars Racing. It's just overall a decent level. You got some good turns in here, a couple straightaways, which are just alright, but then obviously the music kind of has the whole vibe of the level. It's just a very vibey level, honestly. That's all I can really say about it. Fun level. And now, next up we have Cyberspace from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Now this is probably a controversial pick to put this so low because apparently this is actually a favourite from this game from what I've been seeing, but yeah, despite the stellar music here, good job Otani carrying another Sonic soundtrack. The actual level design here is alright, mate, it's alright. I mean, the first section, you've got multiple pathways here which actually means something. You can actually jump from one pathway to the other, that's actually pretty fun there. Then you got a decent turn afterwards with a shortcut which, from my experience, doesn't actually feel any faster. Every single time I take that shortcut in online, I somehow drop many places. Like, what the point of that pathway being there if it's slower? I don't understand. But then you got a flying section. I feel like this is where it kind of goes downhill in this level because it's a straightaway with a couple things to dodge, but it's still just a straightaway and a flying section in this level. Then you go into a nice turn there, like this turn here. Then you go down into a section which is a straightaway with some cars to dodge, and I mean it's a straightaway with cars to dodge, not the greatest thing in the entire world. So yeah, pretty much first half of this level is pretty strong, second half of it is okay, so I think it's a B tier worthy level. And now we have Frozen Junkyard from Team Sonic Racing. Now I think from this point forward in terms of Team Sonic Racing tracks, I feel like we don't really have too many problems with actual track design itself, it's mostly just the speed bringing it down. Because in terms of obstacles, turning here, and multiple pathways in this level, I think they've got it down, to be honest with you. And then they've even got a cool set piece with the Death Egg Sentinel shooting down lasers from the sky. Like, it's cool stuff here. I just feel like the speed is the main issue here. As I've said already, I really do wish like we can get some sort of Team Sonic Racing project for racing Crossworlds or something, because some of these later Team Sonic Racing tracks in this tier list are actually very, very solid, and with a bit more speed, they could genuinely be some of the best tracks here. Anyways, next up we have Coral Town from Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and this level has an insane amount of pathways. But unfortunately, I feel like most of this level in terms of pathways is like, oh yeah, we have pathways, but they won't really do anything. Because in that first half of the level, I feel like half the time I don't even know which pathway is actually faster, if there even is one. I feel like any type of pathway you take here will just get you to the end section in pretty much the same amount of time. Maybe that was the intent here and I'm just looking too much into it, but I don't know, I feel like they could have made it a bit more obvious which is the faster pathway to go here. But after all those multiple pathways, you got this section here where you bounce all these coral bits, and I mean, at least I think it's coral, I don't actually know what to call it. It's like bouncy stuff, don't know what it is, but yeah, this is a decent section. The end with a turn, we can actually take a nice shortcut with a boost wisp, and then it's kind of over. Yeah, this track is a bit short, I think that's why it's not the A tier just yet. It's just a bit too short, honestly. And I honestly feel that with a lot of this game's tracks, because they have a lot of things going for them, but then they end too quickly, which I do actually think hurts the game in the long run, because say in online, for example, if you get hit like once, you can't even make a comeback anymore because the track is so dang short. Anyways, next up we have Thunderdeck from Team Sonic Racing. Yet again, another reused track that is inferior to the original. And I'm going to give you 3 guesses to guess why it's inferior. Yep, if you said anything to do with the speed, you are sadly correct. Anyways, next up we have Eggman Expo from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. I'm not gonna lie, kind of a shame this track isn't higher on this list, because technically it is the final track in the game if you don't count the secret Grand Prix. But yeah, as a final track for the game, I feel like it doesn't feel very final apart from the fact that, yeah, it's an Eggman Expo, so it's gotta be final, right? But I feel like the difficulty doesn't ramp up enough here, honestly. I feel like it's a bit too easy. I mean, I guess that one water section is kind of annoying because there's like a bit of a tight turn and you can actually get stuck on the walls for some reason, so I guess that's kind of difficult. But apart from that, I mean, the Egg Dragoon comes alive at the 3rd lap, which is actually very good. Thank God they did that. But even the Eggman Wrecking Balls, they don't even hurt you, kind of. They're just there and you can just kind of touch them but not take any damage. I mean, you lose rings, yeah, but that's only because you lose rings when you hit a wall in this game, not because it's an actual obstacle. I feel like maybe those Eggman Wrecking Balls should have hurt you, honestly. It would have made you think a lot more and actually feel like more of an obstacle on the road rather than just them being there. But yeah, overall, my thoughts on this track, it's got some decent turns. I just feel like that once again, the difficulty really should have been higher here because, again, technically the final track of the game, so come on, man. But now, it is time for that wretched country, Dragon Road from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Oh god, Chun-Nan is back, and so is the Chunning Bird. I can't believe he's actually back, and could not be happy, to be honest. It looks so sick in this level. And just this level in general is looking so sick, sounds sick, the entire gimmick of it is so sick, but unfortunately, the track design kind of lets it down a bit, I feel like. The actual gimmick with the Chunning Bird here shooting down things onto the track is so sick, but apart from that little water segment there, the actual on-road stuff is kind of just 2 massive turns and then that's really it. They don't really spice anything up with it. There's not even any multiple pathways on the road sections either. They leave all of that to the water section, and while that is fine, 40% of this track is still on road, so you gotta do something with that at least rather than just 2 massive turns and that's really it. Anyways, next up we have the polar opposite of this track now. We go to Ice Mountain from Team Sonic Racing. Now this track actually has a lot of pathways here which do mean something, unlike a lot of Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Especially pathways that are only built for technique type characters because they actually have a lot of ice on them that other people can't drive on. And yeah, like I said earlier, this track probably just could have been helped by having a bit of a higher speed, because I don't really have any issues with the track design here. It's pretty solid, man, pretty solid. Just make it a bit faster, please. I really do like how you can see the volcano in the background in this level, because later on you go to that volcano in Hidden Volcano, the level, and it's just little things like that that Team Sonic Racing does with its visuals that I really do appreciate, man. It's really good sometimes. Anyways, next up we have Carrier Zone from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and I'm going to be honest with you, on paper, this is a track that should be mediocre in my opinion, because like, well, the entire level is mostly just flying, which doesn't really have that many obstacles in it, and then 2 small, decent driving on the road sections, and then that's really it. So like, Why is this track this high? Well, I don't really know for some reason, because when I play the level, I just have a whole lot of fun, and I don't understand why, because again, on paper this track should suck, but it doesn't. Maybe it's because of the fact that I can actually use flipping in the air with the plane sections, because Crossworlds doesn't have that, so it just enhances the gameplay a bit more here. I just really don't know, to be honest. I really do like how fast this game is though, so it makes stuff like this feel a whole lot more fun. Especially that last shortcut in the road section. You've got to perfectly nail your speed and everything, because if not, you'll hit one of these wooden boxes and slow it completely down, and yeah, that kind of screw you over. It's kind of funny, to be honest, because when I first saw Metal Harbor in that trailer for Racing Crossworlds, I thought that was a reusing of Carrier's one from this game, but no, turns out it was Metal Harbor, so that's pretty funny. And honestly, I think I might have actually preferred them to reuse this instead of bringing in Metal Harbor, because, I mean, they look so similar, and just more Sega representation in this Racing Crossworlds game would have been, I think, a whole lot better than just a lot of Sonic, honestly. Because I know it's called Sonic Racing Crossworlds, but I always feel like the Sega parts of these games are a massive highlight, and for them to only have one track in this game be Sega related, that being Magma Planet, is kind of a shame, to be honest, so is what it is, I suppose. But now next up we have Pinball Highway from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, the original. And yeah, this is what I mean with the speed actually affecting how you experience a track, because to put it into perspective, Team Sonic Racing also had Pinball Highway, but that is actually in the C tier of this tier list. And this version is near the top of the B tier, so that just goes to show. Controls are vital to making a video game feel good, and if the controls kinda suck, it can majorly affect how you enjoy and experience a game. Because this level design here is basically one-to-one with Team Sonic Racing with not really any differences, so it just goes to show again, the speed is where it matters, man. Anyways, next up we have E Stadium from Sonic Racing Crossworlds, the first track of the game, and it's a pretty decent one at that. What really sells this track for me personally is the amount of shortcuts you can take using the grass and boost wisps. Especially in time trials, just deciding and planning which bit of grass you want to cut over in a race is just really satisfying to me, honestly. And it just brings both this track and the entire game, honestly, to a whole nother level of just complexity. But now it's time for Sweet Mountain from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. And every element of this track is just simply good. Yeah, it's just good. The on-road sections are pretty good with a lot of tight turns. The boat sections are decent. Not many obstacles here, unfortunately, though, but you got some decent turns on there. Then the flying section is, again, just okay, because you got the some things to dodge with that, what's it called? The Armada or whatever? The ship in the background shooting things at you from the boss fight in the original game Sonic Colors. Yeah, pretty cool stuff here. But now, next up, we have Steampunk City from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Another level with a crazy amount of pathways, and this one actually has a lot of them done pretty well, because of the simple fact that they actually have a different gameplay experience wherever you go. Only issue being, though, is that, again, it's kind of difficult to tell which is the fastest pathway here. But in terms of gimmicks here, yeah, they're done very well here. You got the trains, you got the steam coming out of the train as well in the flying segment. You got cogs that you can go on. Just, yeah, overall a pretty well done Crossworld. I feel like, again, if it was longer, I could give it an A tier, honestly. Could even be one of the best tracks in this list. But yeah, too short. And now we have the classic Apatow from Sonic Racing Crossworlds, home of the Truck of Monsters. And in terms of track design, yeah, it's just a good track, to be honest. At this point, I haven't really got much to say about some of these tracks, because they're just simply good, to be honest. Anything that could have been longer here would have been an improvement, but yeah, we've got right now. It's just decent, mate. And now next up we have Lost Palace from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, the OG. And of course, because this isn't Team Sonic Racing, speed is not an issue here, so it's a whole lot more fun. And in terms of the actual level design here, apart from the speed, I mean, what more do you want me to say about these tracks, really? I mean, yeah, it's good. It does what it needs to do. Got some decent turns in there, some straightaways which could be improved, and yeah, just a good track. And coming up next, we have Market Street from Team Sonic Racing. In my personal opinion, the better version compared to Racing Crossworlds. And I think mostly the reason this is actually better than the Racing Crossworlds version is because it is longer, to be honest with you. And it's also just got some more interesting set pieces, like I said earlier, driving on the side of walls, and then you got the bouncing on balloons here too. And just the same as ever, just a bit more speed could have done this wonders, honestly. Because despite the track being a bit too wide at times and there being a bit of empty space, when the track opens up a bit to multiple pathways, it's actually a lot of fun. It's just a bit more speed could have made it even more engaging, so yeah, that's all I got to say about it, really. Anyways, next up we have Samba Studios from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. And this is basically a more fleshed out version of Sunshine Tour from the original game, and it's funny that's even a thing because they reuse that track in this game, so what was the point picking that track if you're going to have this one in here? I don't understand. But yeah, the level design here is just a lot more interesting. You got a lot more turns here, different pathways, even got some some boat segments here which actually are very good. I think even the visuals here are a bit of an upgrade too. It's just a shame that the music is not an upgrade because I feel like the new music here is just a bit too calm and not as energetic as the original. I think honestly if this track was a bit longer, maybe it could have been an A tier, because as it stands right now, I don't actually have many issues with the track design itself, because I mean the game isn't too slow for it. There's no part of the layout that really drags on a bit. It's just an overall great track. But now we move on to Hidden Volcano from Team Sonic Racing. Yet again, another track which I actually think is almost flawless in terms of its layout. It's just once again the speed, because there are actually a lot of tight turns here and some great pathways here too, but the speed just makes those turns not tight enough because you come at them so slowly. And as I said earlier, this is the level that you actually see in the background of Ice Mountain, and now we're here. Once again, some great environmental storytelling. Anyways, now we go into Boo's house from Team Sonic Racing. And before saying anything, man, what did they do to the way King Boom Boo looks? What is that? Why? Why does he look like that? That looks awful. But in terms of the layout, I think this track does have some problems with it though. I think there's a bit too many straightaways and way too many turns that are very wide because of how wide the track is. But despite those issues with this track though, there's a lot of good segments in here that are just once again broken up by a bit of mid. And then of course the speed, who could have guessed. And now we go to Crystal Mine from Sonic Racing Crossworlds, and honestly, the music and the level are kind of going hand in hand when I say that. They're great, but there's just not enough of it. I really feel like this track ends when it starts getting good because they don't really flesh out enough of the gimmicks here. Like you got the cranes that only appear in the flying section, then you got a couple bits where you actually trick off ramps that are actually made of rock or whatever, but again, there's barely any time for it to shine. And it's a shame too because this track actually has a lot of great tight turns, but again, it just ends too quickly. And then the same thing with the music. Tomoyo Otani actually made this song, and it sounds very much like Sonic Runners, but it's like a 45-second loop, and that's really it. So yeah, just make it longer and it would have been an A tier. Simple as. But now we move on to Sand Road from Sonic Racing Crossworlds, a massive upgrade from the original version in Team Sonic Racing. And once again, my issue here is that it's too short. It's got a lot of great turns here and even the sand making it a bit slippy, which is great, but it's too short, man. Make it longer, please. I'm sick of short tracks in this game. And now for the top of the B tier, we have Haunted Castle from Team Sonic Racing. A pretty good track held back by its lack of speed. Chuck this track into literally any other Sonic Racing game and it's immediately an A tier. Simple as that. But now let us begin at the bottom of the A tier with Rampart Road from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. A track with some great turns, nice shortcuts, and I feel like what's letting it down is a bit too many straightaways, or rather more simplistic turns actually. Because I feel like a lot of the turns in this level can be easily made with a singular drift, and that's really about it. And while that can be fun at first, on repeat playthroughs when you've already mastered that one singular drift, yeah, it just kind of loses its fun factor a bit. But now we move on to Monkey Target from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Before we say anything, can I just say, they absolutely cooked with every single Super Monkey Ball track in this game. These Monkey Ball tracks all consistently have the best turns in the game. And what makes these turns so good is that they have them in quick succession. You'll have a turn after a turn after a turn into another turn. It's great stuff, man. But sadly for Monkey Target, there is a lot of straightaways here that I'm not really a big fan of. A shame too, because this track has a lot of 180-degree turns near the end of it, like 4 back to back, and it's pretty great over there, man. Pretty great. But there are just too many areas of this level where you just keep going straight and avoiding like a moving ball or something, and that's really it. But now we have Blizzard Valley from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. And the reason this track is actually in the A tier is only because of the fact that it's got ice physics, which makes some of these turns very difficult to take and maintain on the ice instead of the snow, especially on supersonic speed. Now, similar to Rampart Road, I feel like a lot of these turns are kind of a bit long because you can once again clear them in a singular drift. And I know the reason for them doing that is because of the ice physics here, but again, once you master how to get those drifts down perfectly, it kind of does lose its charm just a wee bit. If they made the turns a lot shorter but then added a whole lot more of them, they could have been cooking here. And now we go to the final Team Sonic Racing track, which is Clockwork Pyramid. And this track really hurts me. It actually hurts me inside because the layout is honestly almost perfect. Like genuinely in terms of layout, this might be one of the best tracks on this list, but again, because of the speed being a big issue here, it just ruins experience just a tiny bit. Because in terms of turns, gimmicks, visuals, it's all superb here. You've got all cogs everywhere here that you need to avoid, and if you're smart about it, you can actually time it properly so you can actually get in between them and hit some dash pads or whatever to make it go faster. And then hitting a singular trick on the little ramps that you got here at the perfect time is also satisfying. It's just overall overall a really well designed track. Honestly a shock coming out of this game of all games. I just really wish this game was faster, man. That's literally all it needed to make it so much better. If there's any track I want to see ported to another racing game, it is this one, by far. This one right here. Please put it in another game. But now we have Rocky Coaster from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Another really solid track from this game, not hurt by speed or layout. It's just pretty solid overall. Got great turns, things to avoid on the track, and even some nice visuals here. I like the whole thing of just going on water slides or whatever. It's pretty cool actually. I'm a big water slide person in real life, so this track just speaks to me honestly. But now we go to Thunderdeck from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, the OG track. And yeah, this time there's no slow speed to hurt or anything. It's just a solid track overall. Great turns, shortcuts that require a lot of speed to take with these ramps right here, and then cannons on the side actually shooting up the track for you to avoid, and yeah, it becomes an obstacle there as well. Nice stuff overall. Next up we have Wonder Museum from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. The track with the best music and a track that used to have some of the best visuals in the game before they ruined it because they downgraded it after the closed network test back in February. But yeah, in terms of layout, this track has it all pretty much. Great tight turns, lots of shortcuts to take using boost wisps on grass, and then even as a dynamic third lap where everything comes to life with all the ghosts or whatever in the museum. It's great, man. But now next up we have Colourful Mall from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Another level which is absolutely littered with multiple pathways, and yeah, I feel like in this level they actually do quite a good job with them. Since all the pathways are actually layered on top of each other, it's actually very fun to go ahead and just mix and match between them. Like you'll end up at the top pathway, then you feel like actually, you know what, let's go into the middle pathway. Boom. Then if you want to go to the bottom pathway, then it's your choice to go into it. There you go. And then even vice versa. Say you're on the bottom pathway and go to the top pathway, take the escalator there, but then you think, hang on, let's go back down again. And you just fall back down again. It's that simple, really. It's a very fun gameplay here. And then even the shortcut near the end of the level where you gotta use either a boost wisp or a shield item to get to this bunch of chairs or whatever. Again, fun little stuff like that in this level, man. Really good. But now next up we have White Space from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and before we say anything, the music here, big fan of it. I can't lie, after Shadow Generations I am absolutely sick and tired of hearing All Hail Shadow or Shadow's theme, but you know, this track somehow got me now. It got me again. I actually really like the music here, despite the All Hail Shadow references in here. And then in terms of the layout, lap 1, pretty solid overall, honestly. A lot of places to fall off, which I do enjoy because, again, technically, even more technically than Eggman Expo, this is truly the final track you'll be playing in the game apart from the DLC. So difficulty should be amped up here, and it is, so that's very good there. And then it's even a dynamic track in the fact that lap 3 is completely different because they introduced the Doom Zone aspect to White Space, which is actually very cool. Love that they did that here. Now I will say the final shortcut of this track over here is a bit unintuitive, I feel like, because in my mind it makes more sense for this shortcut to be at the start of the turn, but instead what it actually is the middle of the turn, and it just leads to, first of all, the shortcut being even less of a shortcut than it actually is, and then 2, it's just very unintuitive to get to, in my opinion. But then again, that could just be a skill issue, so who knows. And now next up we have the newest track to the game, which is the Minecraft World DLC, and must I say, what a banger track this is. Visually and layout wise, music wise, it's all superb here. They incorporate all 3 dimensions into one track. Lap 1, you go to both the nether and the overworld, then you have a dynamic third lap where you go to the end. So sick, man. There's plenty of places to fall off, you got loads of obstacles on the track, in the form of creepers, cobwebs, TNT, ghasts, everything here, man. Honestly, that first lap is actually just perfect. Not a single complaint other than it's a bit too short, but I think lap 3 is where it kind of gets held back a bit, because when you reach the end, I feel like they kind of take the spectacle aspect more over the gameplay part, because I feel like the flying section is a bit too basic up until you reach the Ender Dragon, where you actually have to do something to avoid it, but then after that it's over, so like, I feel that kind of drags on the entire track, unfortunately. It could have been genuinely near the top of the A tier, maybe even S tier if it was longer too, but nevertheless still a fantastic track. And now next up we have a fan favourite, which is Kronos Island from Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Now admittedly, when I first saw gameplay of this track, I wasn't too impressed, honestly, because of the fact that I thought Squid had all barriers on the side of the track so you couldn't actually fall off, but now that I've actually played the game, I realised that yeah, you can definitely fall off the Squid, and my god, it is so difficult to stay on, especially with 11 other races on the track. But yeah, you got a lot of shortcuts to take here with, once again, grass and boost wisp, you got tight turns here, places to fall off with the Squid, the fact that they even use the Guardians from Frontiers as obstacles on the track, though I will say, apart from Squid, I feel like they could have gone a bit more with it, like, where's Giganto here, bro? Show him here or something. Anyways, next up we have Highway Zero from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Just once again, another solid track from this game. Tight turns, and they do a very good job of the obstacles on the road, having guardrails in the way, cars in the way you gotta avoid, just again, solid stuff all around. And then once again from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, we have Sewer Scrapes. And unlike the other two Kyrian Mansion tracks in this game, this one has no pace-breaking issues at all. It's got a solid gimmick of that of being all the sewers or whatever, which means you got stuff like these weird skeleton eel things on the track that you gotta avoid. And then all this greenish yellow sludge, whatever you want to call it, actually has a cool gimmick where it actually takes away all the item boxes going along the stream. So you've got to actually be quick to actually net some of the item boxes before they actually get destroyed by the end of the stream. But now, next up we have Aqua Forest from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. One of my favourite tracks in this game visually, honestly. It's a very beautiful looking track. I love the setting here. And then track design wise, it's got some of the issues that Crossworlds has where some of the shortcuts are kind of flipping pointless because they just don't live up to the name of being shortcuts because they aren't faster at all. They're actually slower in some scenarios. But thankfully, in terms of the tight turns or whatever, in the boat sections there are a lot of them. So if you for some reason don't know how to control a car by just letting off the accelerator or even hitting the brake button, you will be sliding and hitting those walls constantly. But thankfully there's actually a good shortcut in here where you gotta use a boat jump to get in some dash rings over a bottomless pit. Pretty good stuff right there, man. And I think to make this track better is to simply, 1, make the shortcuts actually feel like shortcuts, and then 2, just make it longer. You know the drill with this game, just make it longer. And same goes for the next track, which is Treetops from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Now this track is an absolute blast to get through, but unfortunately it's just so damn short. It's got constant turn after turn after turn, and it's just so much fun to go through. But then all that great level design comes at the cost of the track being around 30 seconds long, which, man, why is it that all the tracks with the best level design are just so short, man? Gosh darn it. If this track were just longer, could have been one of the best ones here, genuinely. Maybe even in S tier. And again, same goes for the next track, which is Mystic Jungle from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. They took Mystic Jungle from Sonic Forces and made it one of the best tracks in the new game. How surprising is that? And what's even funnier is that a lot of the level design tropes here are just taken straight from Forces, like the 2 splitting pathways at the beginning, that's from Aqua Road, and the 2 splitting pathways on the water slide, again, that's from Aqua Road. Like, Forces apparently had some things going for it, but it was just made for the wrong game. It should have been in a racing game instead. But once again, the issue with this track is too damn short. The water slides are so fun to drive on because you can literally just fly off of it and go into another track on down below or something. It's just fun, man. And they even make Murray's cousin from the original Luminous Forest an actual obstacle on the track. Like, it just doesn't get better than this, except it can because it's too short. But now we move on to Chili Castle from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Another track with some great turns and an even better boat section because of the speed. I will say though, that last turn when you exit out of the boat section has always been so weird to me because the physics kind of mess up. You start sliding up on the side of the invisible wall. Like, it's so weird sometimes, man. This game has a bad habit of this physics just messing up because it's just so damn glitchy for some reason. It feels even less polished than Team Sonic Racing at times, and I thought that was impossible to do for a racing game, but apparently this game can do it sometimes. Anyways, next up we have Rakaku Hill from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. I don't know if I said that correctly, but we're gonna say it like that anyways. And this right here is the best Jet Set radio track in the game. It's got beautiful visuals, some very tight turns one after the other, and then it's even got a great shortcut near the end where you gotta stay on the train platform, which is very thin by the way, so you can actually drive into a car park and then get through there as a shortcut. Very cool stuff right there, very cool. I like the use of ramps here as well, works very well with the physics of this game. If you're quick about it, you can actually sneak in some air boosts in there, so that's nice. But now moving on to Dragon Canyon from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. A track with both land, sea and air. And I think this might have some of the best mix of all three, honestly. You've got some good turns and shortcuts on road, then when you hit the sea, you got a lot of rocks to dodge, and even the waves allow you to get some tricks in there if you're quick about it. And then when you're in the air, a lot of turns and actually things to dodge here, so it's really the best of all three worlds here. And now next up we have Donpar Factory from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. When I first saw gameplay of this track, I already sat there and knew that, yeah, this is gonna slap, isn't it? And then thankfully that remained true when I played the game. You've got tight turns, shortcuts that occasionally don't matter but occasionally do matter, so that's good. Shortcuts that I can use with the grass and boost wisp and the things that dodge on the track, and then yeah, what more could you possibly ask for except for the fact that it's too short once again. This track right here definitely could have been an S tier easily if it was longer. Like, they do a great job with the gimmicks and everything here. It's a fantastic track, man. Fantastic track. Anyways, next up we have Seasonal Shrines from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. It's got some really great on-road sections with the pathways and shortcuts and everything, and then even in the boat sections, a bit short-lived, but honestly I don't mind it because it's just short and sweet, so can't really complain, to be honest. I really do like how on this track, the longer you actually drive on it for, the more the time of day changes, so that by the time you're done here, you end with a beautiful sunset. How lovely. And now next up we have Graffiti City from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Once again, another track with some very solid on-road sections. If you're quick about it, you can sneak in a whole lot of extra air tricks here to get some extra boost, which is nice. And then for the dynamic third lap of the track, you end up in the air, and yeah, there's actually a lot of things to dodge here, so it's very engaging. And now next up we have Temple Trouble from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, and just like the first game, they're once again cooking with the Super Monkey Ball tracks in these games. Like, they're just so good, man. The layout's always just so fire. This one has a lot of alternate pathways, great turns to take, and a great boat section to end off the entire thing. And now next up, unexpectedly in my opinion, we have Ocean View from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. I was not expecting the first track of Transformed to end up this high on the list, but here we are. This once again goes to show how much controls and physics matter in a game, because just look at the difference between this one and the Team Sonic Racing one. Like, it's just so far high on the list now compared to that one. And while the on-road sections here are pretty great overall because of the physics and the speed of this game, that final dynamic lap when the entire thing turns into a water section is just simply fantastic. You've got plenty of shortcuts to take here with all the ramps and everything, tight turns, just what an opening to this game, honestly, I must say. And then next up we have Burning Depths from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Just once again, another great mix of land and sea. And just a massive shout out to the song here because the music is absolutely baller in this track. But yeah, you've got shortcuts here, tight turns in the boat section. A great atmosphere, honestly, because of the entire visuals and the fact that somebody talks to it the entirety of the track too really does just add to the entire feel of it. It's just great, man. Simply great. It is a bit on the shorter side though. A bit more length to it could have made it S tier, just saying. And the same very much reigns true for this next track, which is Pumpkin Mansion from Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Gosh darn it, why is this track short as well? This track is fantastic. Great aesthetics, great pathways, great off-road shortcuts you can take with boost wisps. So many tight turns, cool gimmicks, a slightly dynamic third lap with that invisible shortcut near the end. Like, it's just all great stuff, but then it ends so quickly. Gosh darn it, Crossworlds. Why do you have so much quality in some of these tracks but then not enough quantity, man? Gosh darn it. If this track was longer, I'm telling you right now, this would have been the best track on the list. But alas, we move on to Race of Ages from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. And if you think about it, this track is basically a kind of beta for Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Because halfway through the track, the person in first gets to choose between either taking it to a flying section or a boat section. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? And thankfully, both of those sections are very engaging. And then when it comes to the on-road sections, every single lap, the entire road section changes. And let me tell you, trying to stay on the track here is quite difficult if you don't know what you're doing. One wrong move and you're gonna get sent flying off the track, and honestly, weirdly, the CPU also seems to struggle with this because I somehow managed to finish 45 seconds ahead of the other people here. Like, what the hell were they doing? I don't know, but I'll take it, I guess. And now next up we have Ada's Lair from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. This level might honestly be the peak of flying segments in this game because that opening flying section right here is just some pretty great stuff, man. This just really shows to me how much Crossworlds was missing the flipping in the air mechanic that this game had, because without it, these flying segments would absolutely suck because you can barely make some of these turns, but no, use the flipping and you're golden here, buddy. Then upon hitting the road, you hit with a bunch of shortcuts you can take and multiple pathways and everything. Then you got some tight turns on the boat sections and a lot of things to avoid too. Like, a genuine question though, whose idea was it to make us drive on molten lava? But now, for the top of the A tier, we have Sandy Drifts from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. And this is exactly what I mean when I say they were cooking with the Monkey Ball tracks in this game. This track is a simply peak level design for these racing games, honestly. So many tight turns, one after the other. A really cool shortcut you can take right here if you can actually just drive over the gap. That is so sick to take. My only slight issue with this track is that it's just a wee bit short. If it was just longer, top of the S tier, just like that. And speaking of the S tier, we now have the final track of the list. That's right, the only one in the S tier, which is Graveyard Gig from Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. And there's not a single problem I have with this track. It's pretty much just perfect, and that's why it's in the S tier. Every single lap in this track is different from each other. And let me tell you, that lap 3 hits different, man. That new layout in lap 3 has so many cool shortcuts you can take. I was genuinely finding some entirely brand new pathways upon replaying it for this list. Like, it was just so good. And the way lap 2 changes the water section midway through, where it's only different because the water level rises, so it feels completely different, is just so cool. And with that is the end of this video. So overall, despite some of these games' shortcomings, this is just simply a great selection of tracks, honestly. It's a shame there's not more S tiers in here though. I would have liked to see some things like Pumpkin Mansion be longer to get into that S tier, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, I suppose. This does make me more interested to see what they'll do in the future with these racing games though, because I feel like Crossworlds is a good place to start. part, because after all, we don't have Sumo Digital anymore, it's Sega's own racing team developing these games, so with what they've learned with Crossworlds, where could they go to next? Will the game after Crossworlds learn the lesson that they need these tracks to be longer, because without that length, I feel like some of them can't truly be S tier, as we've seen in today's video? And what will the new gimmick be? Because we got the Crossworlds now, we got Transformed, we've kind of got teams still in some form in Crossworlds. Or will there even be another racing game? Will they keep just building and building on Crossworlds? I don't know. But let me know your thoughts on my tier list of all these racing game levels. How much do you agree or disagree with this list? Let me know down below. Love to see what you guys have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, especially that last one. Don't forget to become unleashed by pressing that join button down below. And remember, it's not necessary. And I will see you all next time. Peace.